Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We are here for another one of your questions about work. And this is a question that I feel like as more and more companies have become aware of the importance of having boards that actually contribute value to them, more and more rising leaders have asked this question. For those of you who are here for the first time, I'm Roy. I'm a startup investor in the future of work. And Yvonne and I have had the chance to collaborate on some future of work related scenario planning on the Shift Commission years ago. Now, and then she was at New Relic then. She's the CEO of Puppet now with a drone interlude.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, drone
All right,
interlude.
that's just from memory. And Yvonne is on the board of several companies, including established for-profit companies like Forrester, fast-growing companies like Anaplan, and also served with my equal partner, Karen Klein, on the board of Harvey Mudd. And so, Yvonne, thank you for being here. It's really a treat, and would love to hear anything about the experience at Puppet and otherwise that makes your answer to this question stand out even more. But the question is, I'm interested in this board thing. I'd like to get on a board. How does one even begin to do that?
It's first off, Roy, it's such a pleasure to get to spend this time with you. I love the work that you're doing in this space. And I love the question that you're asking, because it's a question I asked myself about 8 years ago when I was at VMware, and I didn't really know what a board was. But I thought 17 years as a consultant, 5 years as an operator, I must make an amazing board member. It's a long journey, and I'm happy to share some of my learnings on the way. But I will say, increasingly, it's such a wonderful place because boards are looking to add younger leaders who bring fresh perspectives, who understand technology, who understand cyber, who understand this new world that we're living in. So I think it's a great opportunity for folks who are operators to complement their operating experience. I find sitting on boards makes me a better CEO. And I find being a CEO makes me a better board member. So I think it's a
I felt the same way. In part because when you're a CEO, you remember that like what the CEO wants from board members is not like new things to add to the roadmap or why don't you just X. You remember that everything is in the context of very difficult daily trade-offs about what to prioritize.
100%.
Yeah. And so, okay, so then let's assume that I've concluded that I think I would get a lot out of this. How do I go about finding a way onto a board?
Yeah, step one is really understanding what type of board you A, want to get on, and B, are qualified to get on. And I separate that out because your wants and your qualifications may not match up day one.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you can't get the career experiences.
I'm going to buy 9% of Twitter. I'd like to be on the Twitter board.
Exactly. If you're not a multi-billionaire. So I think it's really important. I mean, you called out, I sit on private company boards, I sit on public company boards, I sit on nonprofit boards. They're all wonderful in their own way, but they're very, very different. And so the first thing I'd encourage folks to do is do some board education. There's tons of public resources, but understand the difference. A public company board is regulated by the SEC. It has certain committees. It has very strict commitments. It tends to be a little bit more procedural, but it is moving more into strategy. Separate that from a private company board, particularly earlier stage. It's a little bit more hands-on. Board meetings can tend to be a little bit more frequent. You tend to do more like helping recruit talent to the company and introductions. So the role is quite different. And a nonprofit board is yet again different. So I recommend spending some time understanding that, and then also understanding compensation. One of the nice things about board work is a lot of board work is compensated, particularly in the public sphere. In the private sphere, it's typically more equity if there's compensation than cash. And in the nonprofit world, it's often you paying them in the form of donations. So understand both what the responsibilities are that might be interesting to you, but also the economics of it.
And so, okay, so then you're narrowing on a type. And so for many people who are considering a first board seat, it's often a private company board. And we know through our investment in companies like the Board List that those are oftentimes, the public board seats are very high profile, but that's very rarely somebody's first board, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, I'm
Or is that
going to say
different
you're a
now?
little mistaken.
Okay, good. Please correct me then. That's great.
And so this was actually, I was very interested in getting on private company boards. And one of my dear friends at VMware introduced me to her husband, who was a serial entrepreneur. And he said, Yvonne, you're one of the smartest people I know, so don't take this the wrong way. I'd never put you on one of my boards. To which my feelings were hurt. And I asked him why. And he said, here's the deal. He goes, you've never worked anywhere but public companies. You spent 17 years at Accenture. The smallest company you've ever worked for is VMware. He goes, what do you know about raising cash, debt rounds, running a business based on cash flow? Like, you don't understand the problems I need help with in my board. Earnings calls, audit procedures, SOX, these things that are valuable in a public space. And so when you're thinking about what type of board matching your skills, I really wanted to get on private company boards. I thought they'd be more fun. So a big reason I moved from VMware to New Relic was to get that private company experience. I joined pre-IPO and it was very different and I found I did love it. And that was really what helped me get into some private company boardrooms. And I've loved doing that, but it is a different experience. So you should
you're
think
saying
about
that
what you
maybe
have.
the reason I think that is because I'm surrounded by private company people
Yes.
all day long. I totally buy that. And nonprofit boards I've found are also different in that the board is tasked with doing more work. I mean, oftentimes, for example, ownership of the financial model of a business lives with staff, usually in a business, the CFO or finance team. And a nonprofit, that team might help, but they might not have the resources. And so sometimes the board owns the financial model for the organization, as just one of many examples of where the board and a nonprofit, obviously boards always do real work outside of board meetings. How did you make it known? There's not exactly like a job application process for applying for a board seat. And so one of the places that's, I think, shrouded in mystery for many people is, how do I turn on my taxi light and tell people I'm ready for a board seat and go about that?
Yeah, to me, the answer to the question, and it's a great one, it's the hardest part, is a combination of brand and network. And when I say brand, this was something that was really interesting advice that I got. When I was asked, hey, Yvonne, what experience would you add to a boardroom? And I'm a CEO. I restructured my own board. So I have a sense of like what I want in the boardroom. You only have so many seats. You want specific expertise in that room. And so my first answer was, well, I'm really smart and I'm hardworking. And they're like, okay, well, everybody is. So try again. And I said, well, I'm really good at all these things. And my coach said, Yvonne, that's wonderful. And I believe you, but being good at everything is about as valuable as being good at nothing because it's not memorable. So one of the key things you need to focus on when you want to get on a board is, what do you want to be known for? Because in my case, what I became known for is how to scale companies and the understanding of how CIOs buy. And so I was very attractive to young technology companies who were selling to CIOs who wanted to scale. But that became my brand, somebody who knows CIOs, who knows how to scale companies. So when I went and I networked, I said, hey, I'm looking to get on a board and here's what I bring.
Love it.
Way I got on the board is somebody was looking to sell to CIOs and help scale his company. And he's like,
totally.
You're perfect.
I love that. All right. That is super. And I think gives people a great place to start. Any parting thoughts before we wrap?
Have resilience. Getting on a board is a lot harder than getting a job. There aren't as many board seats. It's not an easy path. You're going to be told no a lot. Ask for feedback, but if you invest the time, you will get there. And I have absolutely loved it. It's made me a better leader, and it's really a lot of fun.
Thank you. That is great input. And for those who are watching for the first time, it's not advice because Yvonne knows her path, and as we can see, I know my path, and my path is an incomplete story. And so all we're doing here is sharing perspectives so other people can learn from us. And if you want to see past questions that we've tackled, you can find them all at thisisnotadvice.work. And Yvonne, thank you so much for being here, and would love more excuses to keep talking. I think, we are overdue for a catch up and to be continued.
Absolutely.